Hi, how's it going? Asia, welcome to my channel. So today we will be talking about dyslexia because I have dyslexia. So we'll be talking about my experiences, things leading up to my diagnosis and the aftermath and that sort of thing. Yeah, so stay tuned. I hope you enjoy. One of the things that I really want to do with this channel and all that good stuff is to be as transparent as possible. My editing skills aren't great, so I'm probably sure that you can probably tell that a lot of these videos are edited. And for this one in particular, I'm cutting out all the in-between moments. Like, I take long pauses and I just sit there and stare at the camera. So take that out. The parts where, I don't know, I do random stuff in between, taking those parts out. However, I do think it's important to highlight, or not even highlight, but show that I'm not doing this perfectly the first time. So, in this video at least, I'll be keeping in any of the imperfections. So, this is a preface, but I'm not good at reading out loud. So, what I'm trying to read out loud is a little raggedy. So, I'm going to keep it in for transparency. That's really it. All right, back to the video. Alrighty. So, you may be asking, hey, you're talking about this thing. What is it? All right, we got a definition. So, according to WebMD, as of March 22nd of 2021, dyslexia is defined as a learning disorder that affects your ability to read, spell, write, and speak. Kids who have it are often smart and hardworking, but they have trouble connecting the letters they see to the sounds those letters make. Some other characteristics, kids with dyslexia struggle more in school because it takes them longer to read. Trouble processing words can also make it hard to spell, write, and speak clearly. For middle and high school students with dyslexia, they may have trouble writing clearly, make errors in spelling, grammar, punctuation, take a long time to finish their homework and complete tests, have messy handwriting, speak slowly, avoid reading aloud, also me, which is ironic that I read aloud so much, and can't remember the names of words, so they might say or a lot, which I do because every video that I've had to cut out like 10 ums and uhs and stuff of the sort because I just say it. Anywho, in adults with dyslexia may find that they have a hard time reading at a good pace, or engaging activities that involve reading, spelling, memorizing, or remembering words, taking notes or copying things down, definitely me, understanding common sayings or jokes that involve putting a different meaning to a set of words, like in the home stretch, or a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Doing math, learning other languages, or remembering numbers such as passwords or PIN numbers. Not me, I like numbers. Staying organized, definitely. And meeting deadlines. So those are the definitions that I have from WebMD. So specifically for me, the things that cause me the most trouble are notes, like note taking, which we'll talk about. I think we'll talk about that later. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But note taking, I hate taking notes. It's hard. Messy handwriting, which my handwriting has gotten better. Just said, those are the large ones in that category. I would also say I had, or mostly had, sometimes I do still have trouble mixing up well, not always letters, but two characters. So the letters G and J, I would mix them up. So wherever it was supposed to be like a J, I would put a G, and wherever it's supposed to be a G, I put a J. I don't know, they have like a similar sound in my head, and they also have like a similar look or a similar feeling look to them, which is why I just switched them in my brain, and it just yeah. I also mixed up the letter N and the number 9, and that was a large problem when I started taking algebra class, because then I had to sometimes write them both. And I would write an N instead of a 9, or a 9 instead of an N, and get the problem wrong because I switched them. And it's only because the number 9 starts with the letter N, and that is the only reason why I mix them up. And I know that 9 and N are two separate things. Like, I know that. But I still will subconsciously just write a N where there's supposed to be a 9. And then I'll get to the end of the problem like, that's not a variable we had at the beginning. So those were mine, as well as general spelling. I don't even know if I said that. But it's mostly words that I know. So I have, and I couldn't tell you any that I do off the top of my head. But just words that I don't spell every day, but I spell frequently enough. I will misspell them the same way or different ways often. And then it's just, I look at it and I say, I know this is wrong. And then I'll spell it the correct way after a couple tries. But yeah, so those are the main things that have been interesting to me. So you may be thinking, all right, you talked about like your experiences and things that trip you up, but how did you know? Like, how did this, like, just because you were switching up two letters or a letter and number, how did you know that this was like really a thing? So the first, and I talked about this in my blog, or in the reading of my blog. Yeah, the first one. Hey, link here. Ding. So I wrote a Mother's Day card for my mom, and I don't know how old I was, but I was child-esque, elementary, and I spelled the word friend wrong. And at that point, I enjoyed reading, so I read a lot, and I had read the word friend, and I knew how to spell the word friend, but I spelled it like, I switched the E and the I, and I just sobbed because it's a long story. I had talked about it in my blog. If you want to hear the story, hey, I think I already did a ting to watch it, so go watch that. But yeah, that was kind of my most distinct early memory of saying the words I'm spelling aren't correct. I also had a really hard time in elementary class, which I think I talked about this in the blog too. I also had a hard time in elementary courses, or I will talk about this in the blog, I think. So I guess we'll summarize this. Elementary courses with letters or spelling words and vocab words. I just didn't do them because even if I did them, I still got them wrong. So my idea was, if I was going to study get them wrong, and I was going to not study and get them wrong, I might as well just not study them. So I didn't study them, and then that was it. So yeah, that there was, in high school, I was in the choir because I like singing, and part of our task, one of the tasks that we had to do when we walked into the room was to set up the chairs for for everyone so we could sit in the correct spaces and, you know, sing and blah, 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 blah. And so we had to have, I think it was like 7 chairs in each row. Yeah, each row. And I looked at one of my friends and I said, hey, how many chairs are in this row? And she looked up and she said 7. And I didn't know people could do that. Like, I didn't know people could count things that they couldn't physically touch. So if I want to count something, I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and touch all of it, like touch everything, or have my finger or my cursor or something next to it so I can physically like feel or see each one of them. But I didn't know that people could just look up and say like, oh, there are 5 circles, and just look at me like 5. Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. Apparently it is. Apparently people just do that. So that was another idea where I was like, maybe something's not off, but something's different. And I think the final, was this before? It was before. The final sort of straw for me before I got tested was a computer programming class that I had my sophomore year of college. So I really enjoy computer programming. However, I didn't have one of those fancy programs that will autocorrect the words for you. So I was just typing everything. It's the equivalent of using like Notepad versus Google Docs or Microsoft Word. Like, you can type in Notepad, but you're not gonna get, you know, spell check or any of the other helpful things that Microsoft Word or Google Docs has. So that's it. That's the equivalent. So I was typing, and there was one specific piece of code, so one word that we couldn't include in our project, or else our project wouldn't work. And I went through and I completed the entire project and I submitted it, and it kept failing. And I was looking at my code and going through each and every line and saying, I know this is correct. I'm walking through the logic. The logic makes sense. It should add up. And it did not add up. And it was a very frustrating day because I knew I was right. I knew I was very, very close to being right. There was just one thing that was making it incorrect, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Turns out I used the one word that they said not to use. I think I used it like twice, the entire thing, but I couldn't find it. Like, I couldn't find that word, even though I went through the entire code and I read it and I read it and I read it multiple times. I couldn't find that error. And so it was after the deadline where I think I was looking back at it. But yeah, basically there was error in my code and I couldn't find it. And it was that, like, it was one word that made the entire thing wrong. Everything else was correct. It was just that one word being there that made everything incorrect. And it was the most frustrating thing. I'm still mad. So, yeah. After those experiences and the difficulty with the reading aloud and the switching of the letters and stuff and all that, all those good things, I said, all right, I've had some suspicions. I've Googled, I researched, not saying that, you know, everything that you Google and you research is going to be 100% correct, but I'm pretty sure that I might have dyslexia. So I decided that I wanted to get tested for dyslexia. To do this, I had to find find a place that would do the test, so neuropsychological test, and someone who would test for dyslexia on adults specifically. The same company, for lack of better terms, that my primary care physician was a part of, they had one of their counterparts did these neuropsychological testings for dyslexia for adults. So I said, hey, let's try it. So I signed up for a test. They made me fill out it was a very long packet about who I was, why I thought I had dyslexia, things I had experienced before, things I had difficulty with, potentially my parents' background or different things of the sort. And they scheduled me for a test. So I won't go into the testing because it's quite boring, and I honestly don't remember a lot of it. I just know that it was long. So I took the test. A few weeks later, I get a call. Yeah, I get a call back from the person who gave me or who tested me saying, hey, yeah, we want you to come back in so we could talk about the results. I go back in. I'm like, you have dyslexia. Ah, shocker. Yeah. So they officially diagnosed me. I don't know why I did air quotes, but they officially diagnosed me with dyslexia. And they gave me a form to bring to my university at the time, because this was between my sophomore and junior year. So they gave me a form to bring to my university in order to get accommodations for school, so for the classes that I was taking. So I went to the Students Services for Students with Disabilities, I think it's called SSD, and I gave them my paperwork. I set up a meeting with one of their people. I don't remember the official term of it, but one of the people that worked there. And we walked through different options that could potentially help me for my academics. The first couple years of my college experience were just kind of bad because I wasn't doing what I needed to do, but I also had a hard time listening and taking notes in my classes, so it was just difficult. So I would go there and I wouldn't retain anything because I couldn't take notes properly. So they gave me different options for taking notes, which is what I was really struggling with at the time. There was an option for a audio recorder where it would dictate whatever the instructor said, or like a microphone, like closed captioning is kind of what it was. So it would do that and it would take notes for me. I could get another student to come in and take notes in my class, and I could use their notes provided through the disability office at my university. The third option was to get some sort of tablet and a pencil. That way I could take notes using that. And so I went with the third option because I didn't like the sound of the first two, really. So I said, I'll just try to take the notes by myself using the iPad. And I had also seen some of my friends use iPads to take notes, and it looked kind of cool. So it's like, I'll try this and see if it works. There was room for it to be adjusted, so it wasn't a set in stone, hey, this is the only thing you can do. But I started off with the iPad, and I ended up only using the iPad, actually. Let me readjust because I'm uncomfortable. So the following semester, I had an iPad and a pencil to use to take notes in my classes. And prior to when I was taking notes, I would start a bullet point and then do another bullet point, and then do another bullet point, and then realize that the second bullet point was supposed to be a main topic, but now it's 2 bullet points in, and then I would have to start again, but then this related to the 3rd bullet point, and then the 4th bullet point was supposed to go after the 5th one, and then it just got confusing, so it really just started looking like a line going down, but then there was just so many different indentations and nothing was ever at the right sort of like heading that it was supposed to be at, so it just got annoying, so I just stopped. Yeah, it was just hard for me to take notes in general. But with the iPad, oh my gosh, I could move my words around, which surprisingly, that's really what I needed for at least notes wise. I could write all my notes out regardless of if I did write everything and they just got smaller and smaller, the bullet points just got smaller and smaller, and I just wrote them all under the same heading. I could take those notes and I could shift them around. Oh my gosh, I could shift them around and move the headings as I wanted them and erase things and change things and add pictures and add texts and draw with straight lines and actual circles and things like that. It made things easier because I could finally look back at my notes and understand what was going on versus just seeing like a line of things that just kept going and going. I could figure out, okay, this was a header, this was a header, this was a header, these were the topics we were talking about, these were subheadings that we had, and these were the bullet points we had under that. I could finally organize things in a way that made sense for my brain. It was so incredibly helpful. Aftermath of it, so like after being diagnosed, and it's been about 4 years now, maybe? So somewhere around 4 years, 3-4 years or something of the sort. And I personally enjoy knowing that I have I'm glad that I took the test, is what I'm trying to say. I'm glad that I took the test because now at least one, I know, hey, this is something that I'm struggling with or something that I need to take a closer look at whenever I'm typing something or writing something. I should be cognizant of this, or I should look out for this as something that could be a potential barrier or something that can make something harder for me. So I like that aspect of it. I also like the fact that it gave me, or I had the resources that I finally needed for my classes. So the note taking, I also got time and a half. So if the regular test was an hour, I was given an hour and a half to take an exam. And it helped. It helped a lot. I spent a lot of my exam time worrying about finishing because I was such a slow test taker. And I just hardly ever finished. Or if I did get to the end, I wasn't reading half the questions because I was just trying to put something down, so I didn't get a flat 0. This allowed me to actually have the time to sit there, go through all my questions without feeling pressured for time or knowing that, hey, you know, I have 2 minutes left and I have 6 questions to finish. I actually had time to go through everything at my pace and get through all the questions, which I could finally answer them correctly, or as correctly as I could in the time being. So that part was good. I also enjoy knowing because it makes me feel better just knowing. I just prefer to know than to not know, which isn't the same for everyone. If you have any questions about getting accommodations, or you think you might have some sort of learning difference or anything of the sort, and you have any questions about obtaining disability stuff for school, or questions about what the exam was, or just any questions in general, really any questions in general, email and Instagram down below. Feel free to send me an email or send me a DM if you want the question to be, not anonymous, but not public. Or if you want to just leave a comment down below about your experiences, let me know. Put it in the comment section. I don't have anything else to say. I don't know. Be blessed. Do something nice for someone. Eat your favorite treat today. I don't know. Be blessed. Have a good one. Stay kind. Adios.